Yo, welcome to Wall Street Beats. I'm Mackie, here with Bakes Baker. Bakes, for the love of God, I think people are tapping. I think it feels like a summer Friday already, which is bad because it's Thursday. But summer Fridays are pretty much unoccupied. I'm kind of just waiting for golf. It's the retailers have all reported. It's the same market that we thought we had. You get these kind of crazy moves to the upside, crazy moves to the bottom. I'm exhausted. I'm done with this. I don't know. What are you seeing on the chart world there? How's the market looking?
Well, you know it's Thursday, right? It's not Friday yet. I just want to
I do.
reset.
That's why it's
Okay,
disconcerting that it
okay.
feels like a summer Friday.
Thursday's the new
That's how you know
Friday.
that we're really late in the year, is what I'm saying. I'm saying that this is, I think most people are on vacation. I think we have an unusually delayed Labor Day, and I think it's going to be pretty quiet here.
Yeah, I kind of like times like this because, as you say, there's a lot of people at the Hamptons and the Cape and elsewhere, and so when you do have high volume moves, I think it's more important. Like Nvidia today, everybody brothers talking about Nvidia, but in Nvidia, obviously blew apart numbers, and I thought the market was up 4.5%. I kind of said maybe your dynamic, no one's around, it's 7% of the S&P, no one's going to buy it. But I'm looking at it. If it takes out 227.92 today, then you got a new bull market in Nvidia. You got a bunch of retail names flying around. Abercrombie and Fitch flew.
Yeah,
To
that
have
was
a
bonkers yesterday. That was
to have a
crazy
retailer up
yesterday. And
35%, I mean, that doesn't happen too often. So,
no,
there is some fur flying.
we talked about Abercrombie here. I've talked about it forever just because they move 20 points. I mean, if you look at that chart, there's just huge gaps, huge
Well,
yawning gaps. It was 200 at the beginning of the year and went down to 80 or something. I mean, it's just all over the place. Ultimately, you end up, they reported yesterday, and, you look at the numbers were fine. But what they aren't is indicative of a market that, or a stock that trades at 10 times earnings, which is where Abercrombie is. Ever since this thing ramped in 2017 from like $15 to 200, people have been trying to short it, looking for reasons to. It's just a better company now. I don't
Yeah.
know, why it's so surprising to people, but you get these huge outsized reactions. It's unlike Dick's the day before that, which I think told a pretty harrowing story about the sneaker business in general. I mean, Foot Locker is absolutely Vietnam to Dick's, and it's really concerning. I mean, it's they lost more than the value of the acquisition of Foot Locker just in a day's trading,
Yeah.
which is brutal for a $12 billion company. But frankly, they kind of deserve to. It gets you excited, like, oh, I better buy me some, and then you go and listen to the call again, and the entire call was just these guys saying, yeah, our customers coming in for newness. They really enjoy kind of cutting edge stuff. And the subtext was, and our biggest vendor is Nike, and they're jamming retrofit Jordans down our ass. And no one wants them. Like, no one under 40's even heard of Jordan. What are we doing? My God, Nike, please help us. And so their hands are kind of tied. I mean, it's this ongoing shoe disaster. And the 800-pound gorilla is throwing a little conniption fit on its way out the door, and it's wiping out everybody, at least in the near term. And that kind of ruins the story for Deckers, ruins the story for Dick's. It's they can do a lot of collateral damage just for being one big crappy company up there in Portland.
I wrote a post a little while, well, probably about a year ago now, and it was very subtle. My penchant for nuance, and I said shoe stocks
Yes.
suck, and I stand by that, and it just seems like it reverberates every single day.
Yep. And amen. You were absolutely right. And so then it becomes kind of a, okay, you're getting down to pretty low valuations on a lot of these things. As is often the case, the market seemed to sniff it out before the reports came. And the big question out there has been whether or not Nike was going to come in and just get hyper promotional on everybody's ass. That was really scary in the Dick's call, because one of the details they gave was that they were having to be promotional to match pricing from its vendors' own websites. And so you just have the sins of Nike from the past when they tried to be their own store, and then we're going to go back to the stores and kind of, hat in hand and beg to them. Well, now they're competing with the stores, which, if you're Dick's, screw you springs to mind.
Yeah.
We just bought this $2 billion worth of Foot Locker, which is over 50% Nike in terms of revenues, and they're just giving us garbage and competing with us online. This is not a company that I want to do business with. It's you replacing them on the shelves as fast as you can. that makes it hard to bottom. You're so bloated on the inventory side that every running shoe that's not a Hoka is going to be marked down. And that's going to drag Hoka with it. That's why Deckers is so cheap. It's just this huge kind of, they did a cannonball in a wading pool and wiped out half of the people sitting there. They got little kids flying all over the place while this big fat Nike sitting in the middle.
And I do hope I caught a Pulp Fiction reference there a little while ago, getting medieval on them. So I applaud that. Thank you. I
You're welcome.
appreciate
You're welcome.
appreciate. My needs are simple. My wants are few. So
So are you seeing anything that people are kind of getting wrong? I mean, I specialize in the retailers. They've all been reporting. It's been a great trading year, huge dispersion of haves and have-nots. I mean, you see Dollar Tree and Dollar General going in sharply different directions.
but yeah,
You
how does
draw a
that
Venn
happen?
diagram of their customer base, nuance, low margin business, slightly better operators, just doing much better. Over the long term, these stocks correlated about 0.85. I mean,
Yeah.
they are as you would expect, as should naturally, they're dollar stores. They both have dollar in the name, just through pure confusion. The customer base has to be having some overlap there, but they didn't like the Dollar Tree, and they liked the Dollar General. But interesting to me from the macro perspective, both these companies said discretionary is pretty strong. And of course, Wall Street being Wall Street, they're like, we've got this K-shaped economy idea driven into our heads through all the headlines. So make this news fit our
Yeah.
pre-existing storyline,
Yes.
which
Exactly.
is kind of the only reason guys like you and I can still exist, is because people insist on doing that. And so if you just walk in and kind of take a more gimlet-eyed view of things, the discretionary consumers showed up where they wanted to be. That's how you get the Abercrombie, where it's just, they're priced for kind of the demise of the consumer. The consumer's not dying, it's just going to fewer stores. But they're showing up, they're buying things that you wouldn't expect in a really distressed time. I'm not sure why that is. It as we get further away from the Walmart quarter, the worse that quarter looks. The stock looks like it, just kind of wants to go to 100 and squat there for a couple of years. But it's the rest of these retailers are
Wow.
really kind of fine. It's yeah, that's not a great looking. It just looks like it wants to squat at 100 for you know
Well,
5 years.
and I love valuation doesn't matter, valuation doesn't matter, valuation doesn't matter, valuation doesn't matter. They miss a number. Oh yeah, now valuation's a problem, and now it's got to go back to something with a maybe a 2 in front of it versus a 4 in front of it.
It's I think you had the valuation didn't matter as long as Walmart was perfect and they were telling their story perfectly. And Doug McMillan was a great CEO. He earned the right to get that amount of respect that we're going to go off into these different things. He was a Bezosian figure in terms of just, if Dougie Mack was telling us where we're going, that's cool. Everybody's going to follow him. Still getting to know the new managers there. And so then this just became a story of you're investing how much, they're cannibalizing their stores by going to daily delivery. Their traffic was down. Among all these other stores that reported, Walmart kind of stands out for being A, huge, B, lower traffic. Their comp store sales were lower in the stores, which is bad and also unusual. That kind of felt like it was going to really tip the retailers over. I'm glad Target reported before Walmart, because we would have been terrified. But Walmart stands out as just having the weakest quarter. I use them as an economic indicator most quarters, but that would have led you wrong this time around. They're just have become a have-not, and kind of these two are Walmart and Target typically trade at least resembling one another. It's been years since Target's been able to keep up. That's kind of regressing to the mean a little bit.
I mean, there's got to be a bunch of guys that are saying and gals that I'm not I'm not worshiping at the Walmart altar. I've let it become 3% of the portfolio, and targets 0.5, and let's maybe meet that in the middle someplace. And it just flows. Everything's flows, I think.
It is. I'm not sure what the explanation. It's not a human being that's buying Abercrombie up 50% at one point yesterday. That's
Unless they're short.
you try to come up with
Unless
an
you're
investment
short.
thesis. But if you're short, there's nothing that they had absolutely dead ass flat comps overall as an organization. The problem with Abercrombie and the main criticism of them has been you have Abercrombie, you have Hollister. one a little higher end, older customer base, Abercrombie, but it's pretty nuanced. Hollister is more kind of mainstream, a little more downcast economically, but younger customer base. If they ever get those working together, it could be a killer. But typically, what's really bedeviled Abercrombie in the past has been the divergent operations that you have between those two divisions. You saw that kind of again last quarter. As Abercrombie comps were up, Hollister were down, and you ended up with just absolutely flat comps. And so this was really kind of you could have kind of interpreted the quarter really however you wanted to. It certainly wasn't a miss, and it was a beat on every metric, but not comps, not, it wasn't a blowout. It wasn't an up 35% thing, unless you're talking about, again, flows and kind of the mysteries of valuation. But the story hasn't really changed. Urban Outfitters is one that I actually have a position in. Yeah, they wanted to take it out and shoot it. It had a huge day yesterday into the number, which is always scary. They came
Yeah.
out and they wanted to take it down, but it's 12 times earnings, 13 times earnings. You got a newly division. The rental business is growing at almost 30%. That's kind of too good to really diss them. I mean, it's how much lower can you take them before it just becomes kind of ridiculous, which is a little bit where the shoes are now. Best Buy is also not expensive, but the margins there are so bad that it kind of shouldn't be. So I can see why people are kind of dissing on that quarter. It's been so long for this company since they really have had good numbers and promising results. We'll see if they can figure it out. Richfield, Minnesota's finest. It's a decent company, nice people, selling
You
televisions.
homer
It's
you.
tough business. Mhm.
Jeff, and we didn't talk about this offline, so I might be coming out of left field, and I apologize if I am. Out of all this, do you have a fresh new buy you're stoked up about, a sell, or a short, or is it just hold for most of them?
We're not going to hear from these guys again until November from the
But
earnings side. A
anywhere,
lot
not just
happens.
there.
Oh yeah, but I'm just talking about the retailers in general. They're
Okay.
just finishing up the reporting, and so we've got back to school and we have the beginning of the holidays. Now, if past is prelude, people are going to start to get skeptical as we go into Black Friday. You saw that last year, a tremendous buying opportunity in the consumer stocks because you get the almost perfunctory, just these sort of, we've got to publish this type of stories about how Christmas is dead. No one's going to believe anymore. We run kind of culturally the same Christmas movie in effect every single year where Christmas is not going to be here. Santa's not coming. It's going to be terrible. Guess what? Santa shows up at the end. Everyone gets Christmas presents. We're fine. The American consumer is fine. And so, yeah, I'm kind of looking to see where the gainers consolidate. Target's been great for me this year. I want that to kind of mellow out, and it's fine that it is. It went to 170 for the first time since the Biden administration. That's
Wow.
okay. It can rest a little bit.
Yeah.
It's still a nice
But
looking chart.
that's a staircase. That's exactly what you want to see.
Yep.
Staircase.
Yep.
Beat numbers, mollify skeptics, or maybe uh, tepid bulls. But and then gather what Walmart spills as an added bonus. So good for you for sticking with that.
Yeah, thanks. Well, I mean, that's what you're trying to look for in Deckard. And so, kind of going through the dust, it seems early to pick through a lot of these things. Again, it's if Dick's would have been half decent, if it wouldn't have been just such an absolute train wreck on the shoe side, maybe. But the Deck is kind of the cream of the crop on there. On's still too highly valued.
Yeah.
Adidas is, German. The only one out of the group, Crocs, is having a good year. No one else really is, but Crocs earned their good year by having just terrible years for the last couple. So, I guess those are our new athletic shoes. I don't know. Judging by the stocks reaction between Dick's and Abercrombie, you just have these really well-dressed kids wearing khakis and new flannels and barefoot. That apparently is how we're behaving now. Yeah, going to Dollar Tree. It's been a dispersion this year in the group, meaning just kind of how far these stocks spread around the average return. I was running the numbers. It's the average big box stores stock is up 2% for the year. The median is down 5%, and the dispersion is 26% versus 15. So you just have this huge range of outcomes, the have and have nots, and it kind of just who's getting it right is getting all the sales, and the other guys are left to die. And so a lot of what I'm doing now is really as you get towards the end of the year in particular, I don't want the trends to break down, but like Target can sit in that staircase, and that's fine. We've had a great year. It doesn't owe us a penny more. Victoria's Secret, been amazing. It was up 50% or something
I
last quarter. So for
love
that to
that.
chill around
I love
90
that.
that's great. It just, yeah, it's been beautiful. It's been beautiful. But
Very, very
it's
sexy.
and then you end up with, okay, what's next in terms of a comeback? These a couple great comeback stories. Is it time for Lulu? Not really.
Oh God.
Pull up the Lulu chart. It's someday that's going to make somebody money. I wanted to buy it on the big ass bag. I keep looking for the symbolic bottom. Nah. That chart, it's not a terrible. I mean, if you're looking for a base, it's basing. It's hanging out at a
Yeah,
level.
but Nike looked like this too, and then they had the new CEO meet the new boss, same as the old boss, um, and it's you need to have a high volume turnaround, and I think it's
Yeah.
still below the 200-day. It's still in a nightclub at 3 o'clock in the morning, and nothing good
Yeah.
happens there.
Speaking of
So
which, Lulu reports next Thursday, a week from today. So if you think today was a lazy Thursday, holy crap, is next Thursday, the Thursday before Labor Day, going to be quiet? Lulu reports after the bell. So that's 5 days before their new
there's
CEO
going to
comes.
be
So they've been
11. There's
waiting
going to be
for 8
11
months.
people on the call.
That they hope,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
honestly, that's where they're just going to bury that call. I mean, they might as well hold it in Antarctica or space or something. It's they don't want to talk. They don't have anything to say. I would guess they're going to clear the deck for the new CEO. She shows up 5 days after this call. 5 days. So
That's the
I
most
have no
ridiculous
idea.
thing I've ever seen.
They have co-interim CEOs. Now, you and I both know if you have co-CEOs, you don't have a CEO. If you
Right.
have co-bosses, there is no boss. They've been doing that all year. And now they've got someone coming in from out of town who's not legally allowed to really even set foot on the Lulu premises until her non-compete with Nike expires, which is a really complicated thing to get out of, I guess.
The damn same
So they've been waiting for 6 months. They're not going to announce anything that is really breakthrough. If it is going to bottom, it'll be on something she actually executes as opposed to a
Yeah.
PowerPoint slideshow that they show next Thursday.
Wild. Wild.
So what else you got? You were looking at uranium. I hear we're going to make
Yeah,
little tiny power plants.
and I've made money on this twice, coming out of COVID, and another time. And this is why and then I show up on the Twitter feeds, and they call me a tourist, but I don't give a damn because I'm a profitable tourist, and I show up when something is going on. I don't want to stall the show, but one of the main reasons I'm looking at this.
Talks of terrorism? Come on.
Yeah, the spot price of uranium. Now, this isn't a spot market. Almost nothing is priced off of spot. But I can't. If it's a chart, I'm going to look at it. And spot just took out a new high. This is a very slow time for utility buying. You have a lot of people. Europe's asleep. And so it's always a sluggish seasonal time for uranium. So here it is, the last week in August, and uranium is perking up, and I'm going to preempt some of the pushback. Well, NIMBY, I don't want to have a data center in my backyard. I sure as hell don't want to have a nuclear power plant. Well, in China, they don't have to deal with those niceties, and they are putting up nuclear plants because they need all power: coal, solar, wind, and nuclear. Nuclear is coming back into favor. The Jackson Brown concerts are over. The benefits are over. There are no Jane Fonda movies coming out anytime soon. We need every power source we can, and nuclear is at the top of the list. And uranium is just and I think this is going to be the big one, Elizabeth, where this finally. We've worked off the Fukushima hangover from 2011. Here it's 15 years later, and all the things you'd expect to happen have happened. You've had mines shut down. You have stockpiles worked off, and I think this is going to be the time that it goes. And if it isn't, I'm going to take a 15% and leave the building. The mining stocks. This is Cameco. This is the granddaddy of them all. It's perked up a little bit, but this isn't a definitive breakout in my opinion.
How long is that chart there?
Sorry?
What's the time frame on the chart you got up right now?
This is a daily going back about 2 years.
Okay.
Going back 2 years. And here's the long term chart, okay? And here's Fukushima here back in 2011, and then you've seen this death knell for 10 years, a decade, and now it's perking up, coming out of COVID. And I've kind of made money here. I kind of made money here. I think we're getting ready to take the base out to the upside and really go because uh, the low of the spot price was 18, the high was 130. We just took out 90 after a summer of being around the 70s and 80s, and it could stop here, but I don't think that's the way to bet. And you want to talk about super cycles. If uranium goes and takes out 100 on the round number and then 130 on the long term 2011 price, it's Katie bar the door, and you can't put up a mine, in 10 years, much less three. And we're just going to sit here and have catcher's mitt and have the uranium stocks have a lot of money flows, as we talked about before, come into a very very small group of market cap stocks. So stay
So
tuned.
Cameco is the way you're playing it. That's the way you think that this is the best. You're not going to take physical uranium. You're going to take it's just Cameco and go. Is that your one stop shop for the uranium play?
I go. This is my personal favorite. It's a small. This is if I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna have the leverage. Small
Mhm.
cap uranium miners. So this does not own Cameco, for example. It owns a bunch of names you never even heard of. I kind of like that
Okay.
because then there's going to be a bunch of bloggers and podcasters that are going to recommending uranium energy UEC, and watch what happens when those catch a bid. So, again, full disclosure, I am not here yet, but I mean that, if I don't buy uranium in the next month or two, I'll really be surprised. And I really want people along for the ride because, there's no Wall Street coverage. No one's, maybe a couple of Canadians up there, but, and you say, oh, well, this isn't, it's a commodity and it's a cycle. Yes, but I get to keep the money if URNJ goes from 30 to 90. And so I'm going to be all over this. I'm going to probably bore you to tears at some point. But uranium is a great market to certainly trade, but I think to invest in for this particular move that's coming up, if I'm right.
Okay, you'd never bore me by making money. I got a viewer's request. Actually, just it's me requesting you take a look at Williams-Sonoma over the last few days. Down $25, $20 at the open yesterday. Can't hold a good stock down. That's an interesting looking chart there on the uptrend. It's I was encouraged by the price action yesterday. I thought the fundamentals in the story are kind of shockingly good. They're taking share. Laura Albert basically defied people to bet against Williams-Sonoma. She's like, "We're doing this despite the housing market. If we had a housing tailwind, holy crap! I wouldn't even hold conference calls. I'd be living in a Palladium building, But it's so great quarter, especially in the context. Taking share, interesting stock here.
What took it down 25% intraday?
I think the wispiness we were talking about at the top of our call this morning, and just this general kind of there was nothing wrong with it. It's a story I follow closely. So, kind of a shrug moment, but they tried to take it down 5% and the buyers came in. It was partially, I think, just a reaction to again the CEO and management really having their acts together. And sometimes you hear that on a call with the stock down in response to earnings, and you think this management team is just out to lunch. In this case, it was almost this defiant, screw you, we'll buy our stock back. We're crushing the housing market, doesn't matter to us. We're taking share. Comps are up over 6%. So, this whole idea that people are just living in squalor because the gas prices are over $4 is kind of not true. Buying coffee pots instead of having kids. I don't know. You can fill out your own ethnic demographic kind of reasoning behind it, but it was a great quarter and people are just going old school and buying this stock as a result. Just interesting to see it come back that much below the trend line and then just come back with authority by the end of the day and now tacking on some returns today.
Yeah, on big volume too. So I mean, it's committed buyers, And you've always held the management in high regard. I think a lot of people have, but and if you want to talk about fitting into a Wall Street narrative, this is the top of the K, and the top of the K is doing fine, and I think they just proved it with this price action and the conference call. It looks to me.
Yeah, that was my takeaway as well. All right, we're at the
really
bottom of the hour. I'm going to start loosening up for golf. What are you? What's on your radar? What's a wild card that you're looking at going into the weekend, going into kind of looking out ahead towards Labor Day?
The other thing I'm looking at is ags. Charlie Peabody and I have been talking about this for a long time. He's not just a pretty face. He's not just a bank analyst. He's also pretty astute on the agricultural side. And wheat and soybean are, let me get the charts up real quick. Wheat and soybeans are going. And now this I won't bore you with all the details, but that's wheat. That's a bullish chart. And
are beans in the teens?
Beans in the teens. I don't have the spot price in front of me, but I have this is an ETF that buys the futures and rolls them over, which has got all kinds of problems.
Right.
But I'm hearing more and more about El Nino. I wouldn't use that as the only peg to hang my hat on, but when you have two ags acting like this at the same time, I don't know if it's Strait of Hormuz, I don't know if it's the Black Sea, I don't know if it's El Nino. It might be all the above. And if you're right with these things, I think you're right for probably a planting season at least. And I'm encouraged by this. Deer also looks pretty good, just as an aside. And so we'll talk about the ags more and uranium, but I'm at risk of becoming the commodity portfolio, but I don't care. I kind of like it.
That's just fine, man. It's where you're going. You're going where the money is. That's pretty much what a technician's job is.
Always.
Good looking
and
chart.
I like going places where Wall Street isn't, and I think that's what we do here at Wall Street Beats. I listen to 7 podcasts, and 6 of them are talking about the AI bubble debate. I mean, that is so beaten up. I guess it's important. I understand it, but meanwhile, if uranium goes from 90 to 190, these stocks are going to go up way more than that percentage. And I want to be a part of it, and I want our subscribers to be a part of it. So it's going to be fun.
Amen, brother. All right. Well, hey, it's what? Beans in the teens. We're happy that Nvidia did well. That's nice. You guys can play with that. Me and Bakes are going to play with the ags and maybe do a little Williams-Sonoma. That'll get you done. We're Wall Street Beats. Tell your friends if you liked us. Tell us if you don't. And we'll see you next time.
Brought to you from Einstein Snack Bars. Fuel your focus. Find your edge. 25% off at Amazon. Another retailer that Jeff knows something about. Keep smiling.
Finally, a snack bar. Thank God. Einstein Snack Bars, friends. It's what your body's crying for.
Our wonderful sponsor. Take care. God bless. Have a great weekend.